All right, welcome to the Max Effort Kitchen podcast with the athlete and the chef show for you. My name is Matt. This is Cornell. We are your hosts tonight. We have a fun show, I'm sure. I always try not to say that, but hey, we got a show for you. Cornell, how you doing this lovely Sunday evening?
I am good. Just got out of the jacuzzi. I'm actually,
Nice.
fun fact for people that really are probably wondering what kind of clothes I wear in the jacuzzi. I generally just take off all my clothes except for my boxers and jump into my boxers because I'm like, they're dirty
Why not?
already.
Why not?
I mean, they're not like that dirty, but they're like dirty enough that I wouldn't wear them another day in a row.
Right.
I'm generally going to get in like sweatpants or shorts or something to sleep in after that. So I can just take these, throw them directly into the washing machine, and I don't have to have a wet suit just sitting out. And I mean, yeah. So I'm sitting in a towel, wet underwear, and a hoodie.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So and I remember telling Alana about this, but when I came back the second time I visited you down there, I was like, I had like a bunch of clean clothes, and she's like, well, what did you do? And I go, well, like both days we just stayed at Cornell's and back and forth from the hot tub to the cold tank. I don't think that I wore much but my like compression shorts for like 9 hours of the day.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
It's really not. And I kind of liked it. And it was nice. I mean, you know, you're up in the Pacific Northwest, you get hail 1 minute and then it's like sunshine the next. So, you know, you got to have like all kinds of different layers of clothing. But you live in the beautiful San Diego area where my illusion was that it just stayed one temperature at all times, and it kind of does. But you know, you have the ability. Yeah, like it. I mean, I would probably be doing the same thing.
I'd probably say 90% of the time, the lows in the summer are pretty comparable to the highs in the winter.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, have you cooked anything fun recently?
Well, tomorrow we're starting our kitchen remodel, so we've definitely been clearing out a lot of stuff.
I like this. Okay, so it's like kitchen sink type meals.
Clearing out the fridge. The new stove we got does not have a griddle, so I'm like, all right, let's just finish this thing off, make a mess. It's just going to go straight to the dump. Don't have to clean it. So made some very extravagant quesadillas the other day.
Nice.
I mean,
well, I experimented a little bit today. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the basics.
The basics. Okay. I experimented a little bit today, and I'm like 80% sure it worked. So I've been seeing this thing, and I've been hearing a lot in the food industry about the usage of cottage cheese. And cottage cheese is a great source of like whey protein. So I'm like, okay, I see this big recipe going around. I got to see how this works. Still don't really understand how it works, but it works. So it's equal parts cottage cheese to flour, and then some baking powder. That's pretty much it. And you take that, you mix it all together, you create a dough, and you form it into bagel-like things. You I did like half everything bagel, and then the other half of them was cheddar and jalapeno, and you bake them off. And now, traditionally speaking, the way I've always been taught to make bagels is you boil them first, and then you cook at a 375, a little bit lower temperature for a little bit longer, creates that hard outer like shell of a bagel. And now I cooked these things for about 30 minutes in the oven and took them out. And I think I had a good analogy. They're like the thin Oreos to the double stuffed Oreo. So if a double stuffed Oreo was a real bagel, these were like the skinny bagels.
Okay.
But they had great flavor, super high in protein, and they were really, really easy to make. I mean, Maddie helped me make them. So it's like, I don't know. I have about 6 or 7 of them. I'm going to see if they toast up this weekend or this week because I usually eat one for breakfast on my way out the door. And I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know.
No, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Did you blend the cream cheese or the cottage cheese, or did you just hand mix?
I did not. So I got the large curds and I pressed it, and so I pressed all the moisture out of it, threw it into the flour, mixed it up by hand, and it just comes together. It's really odd. But I recommend anybody out there looking for a good, like, I guess, a kind of a nutritious, I'm going to say nutritious because you know what's going in it. It's 3 ingredients plus toppings on it. You have control over the toppings. It just makes sense to me. As far as like, everybody has a really bad look on bagels. Like they're so, carb, whatever, but they're good things to eat. They're easy for me and I like them. So I'm like, I like to have control on what my food is like. And there we go. Really easy recipe. I'll post it online if anybody wants to see it.
No, I definitely want to do it. I've been on my freaking kids about eating in the mornings, and same getting on my wife about eating in the mornings. And the one good part with her is she's now to the point where she's pretty much drinking a protein shake in the morning.
Okay.
But for some reason, she only likes this one. Thankfully, Costco has it. It's a clear protein. It's like a lemonade, and it's really not bad. So yeah, it's basically a lemonade. It takes forever to mix, like in the blender bottle. But then once you let it sit, if you let it sit for, not that you, she's a sipper, not a chugger.
Yeah. Okay.
She'll have it. Realistically, it takes her 3 hours to drink it. After about 20 minutes, it is, I mean, the bottle's green, but it's totally clear in the bottle. Like it just looks like water.
Oh, crazy. I'm going to check this out. You're saying Costco?
Costco had it, and then online we got it as well, but it was a smaller thing, but we ended up getting strawberry flavor. So then I mixed the two and made strawberry lemonade because we're fancy like that.
I love it. That's funny because so Maddie loves strawberry lemonades, and she kind of does the same thing where she'll make like a pack of like the Crystal Light lemonade, and she'll like put like strawberry stuff in there.
Yep.
And she'll walk around and put it in a wine glass like she's drinking it. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? But yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so Cornell, you shared a very I'm not going to say motivational because it wasn't necessarily motivational, but it was an eye-opening podcast that you were listening to, and you were like, "Hey, give this a listen." I'm going to listen to it for a second time, and because it was that good, and I like that because you catch all the things you maybe missed the first time around. But this was on RX Radio. It's episode number 581, and I gotta say thank you for sharing that because it really put a good full circle picture on kind of the reason why I do things. I think you probably relate to it in a lot of ways, a lot of similar ways. But to me, it started. Let me just back up here. When I started sports in middle school, and did the normal kid thing, played organized sports through. I don't want to say normal kid thing, but I did the kid thing that allowed me to gain popularity. Okay. Because I had some sort of natural ability to play football. Maybe I was just an aggressive kid and whatever. Well, I got out of high school, and I remember feeling very, kind of like, okay, next step, let's play some junior college football. Cool. Did that, and like that was cool, but just for me, and I learned pretty quick that it wasn't for me. Well, once I got done with that, I went on a road of no athletic anything. so no sports. I guess after a couple of years, I started snowboarding. But there was a 2 to 3 year gap there where I just didn't do anything, and I was out partying and experimenting with all the drugs and girls and blah, then going to the bars, and I thought that was what you're supposed to do, right? I'm glad I did it. 'Cause I learned really the hard way, and that's not what you're supposed to do. So kids, don't do that. But anyways, I digress. But then I got into snowboarding a little bit, and I was like, okay, I can go to the gym and actually make my snowboarding better. Awesome. And then I started like playing basketball and doing CrossFit. And in my 20s, dude, I felt like I was invincible. I could do anything from like 25 to about 30. 31 hits, I rupture my Achilles. 34 hits, I tear my hamstring. Let's see, 38 hits, and I blow out my elbow. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this, because there is something that is very symmetric. Maybe symmetric's not the right word, but there's a line that goes through all of this that stayed really really strong, and this podcast brought that up, and that was the ability to commit to a process, but I think more importantly, it was that I just didn't stop because I got hurt, or because there was a challenge, or because something held me back, or because I was doing drugs for a long time, or for like a couple of years, and it wasn't even the drugs. Let's just be straight. I was smoking some weed and drinking some beers. So I'm not going to act like I had like some drug-filled life, which I didn't. But for not doing that, to go into that, it felt like it at the time. Anyway, but this idea that we're just going to give up because something got in our way, I think doesn't register with me. And I have a hard time understanding people that this happens to. And I'd like to learn more about it. But to me, I think athletics and sports and training and all this stuff that I'm talking about has really set my life up to be the way I am right now, which can be a little bit intense, but also in my heart and my mind, I'm successful. And I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm just saying I think I owe a lot of that credit to the drive that sports and athletics and training really pushed me into and forced me to deal with.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think that's something that so many people don't have, and they're searching for it, but they don't know that that's what they're looking for. You see so many people just kind of wandering, even if it's in high school or out of high school, or I know, like one of the weird parts that this is not exactly related, but it's kind of in the same line. I grew up in the church. My wife grew up in the church. We met through friends at the church. I did basically all through high school, and there's always stuff that you can do. There's youth group, there's Friday night stuff, there's Sunday stuff, there's midweek stuff. Then you graduate and you go to college, and then there's college group, and there's trips where there's people in charge, but all of a sudden you have total freedom because you're 18 years old now and you're going to Mammoth in the summer, and there's no rules about when you have to be like
exactly
in your condo and all this kind of stuff. And they have trips like that. And then you get married and there's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. I'm 22 years old and I'm married. And now all of a sudden, all of my social stuff is gone. Yeah. And that was like a very weird thing. And I think that was also a time where like I grew up wakeboarding, and wakeboarding in the summer, snowboarding in the winter. And then we had all these friends in college who we would go to the lagoon with, and then we get married, and all of a sudden, like, they're still doing their thing, and we don't have people to do that with anymore. And then the boat finally dies and my dad doesn't buy a new one. It's like, okay, now what? And it was just a very weird phase of life where there was like probably 5 or 6 years where there wasn't much going on. And it wasn't till I found surfing. And unfortunately, surfing is one of those things where if you're built like me, you're realistically not going to be a very good surfer, because I'm a weight in the water. Like, I know how to swim. I'm very comfortable with swimming. I can swim. I haven't done it in a long time, but I could swim very far.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm like a barge on a board. And if you look at a lot of the people who you're surfing against, they're 40, 50 pounds lighter than me on the same size board that I'm on. And they're like bummed because they only caught 10 waves in an hour. And I'm like, I caught 3 and I was excited. And then finally I moved far enough away from the beach where I couldn't continue to afford to surf because it was too expensive when gas shot up. And it's about now what it was. It was $20 for me to go round trip to the beach from where I was living.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't afford to do this 6-7 days a week. And so I was at that time I was living with my in-laws. So I'm kind of one of those people who, and I think you're a lot of the same way, where when you find something, you commit to it, and you're not dabbling in different things. So I went from surfing, and that was pretty much my everything, to I bought a motorcycle. And then in 2.5 years, I had 12 motorcycles. And I got really into that. And then finally, when we got to move out of my in-laws and bought a new house, one of my customers was like, you should try CrossFit. And we all know where that goes.
Yes, we do.
3 months later, I'm 40 pounds lighter and drinking so much Kool-Aid that I'm sweating red.
Yep.
And I'm glad that didn't stick very long, and I found weightlifting through that. But yeah.
It's like and both the things we're talking about here is we centered our life around something that was that helped us learn, or gave us the ability to learn. There's a big thing in my moral compass, and I try to teach my kids this, because we live in an age of like, and I'm gonna sound like an old guy, but we live in an age of instant gratification. Let's just face it. That's social media, instant gratification. We know more information as human beings daily. We get fed this information consistently, more than ever, right? So it's like, if, I see it happening, I see my kid kind of going down roads here every now and then of like how they want it now. Well, Dad, no, I want this now. Well, okay, you got to earn it. You got to save up the money. You got to go out and then you buy it. Do the research first. Get the right product. Keep your money in the bank and then go buy it. And I am a big fan of delayed gratification, because I think, and I know myself, I get a rush off the hard work. I get a rush off of the reflection of what I went through. I get a rush off of the ability to search out 5 different brands and be like, okay, everything I've seen, this is the right one. There's some, to me, it's like that delayed gratification almost stops you from making decisions to either quit or to either, go down the wrong road of maybe CrossFit or, but also in a delayed gratification that I really relate to, which is the idea that like these fad diets are not a sustainable diet for, the rest of your life. Give it a month, give it 6 weeks, let it do its thing, and then go back to life, to eating food the way you should. And I say the way you should because everybody's body should have some sort of nourishment. on a balanced way, or in a balanced way. That's how human bodies work. We all know this. It's science, Cornell. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic. But the idea of delayed gratification to me, and this is really hitting home for me now, and I think that's why I'm talking about it, because I don't know. I don't know me. I don't really count the years, but I've been doing weightlifting and all this stuff and competing for a good amount of time. Enough time that I feel like I can talk about this and I'm comfortable with it. I just started some programming. And there are movements and there are things that I'm doing that I'm learning. I feel like I'm just I'm taking the foundation I came in with and I'm like, holy shit, I'm making this 10% better by doing A, B, and C. And I can feel it. Like, you know me, my feet don't ever move. 2 Saturdays ago, I had the best foot movement session I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I saw
and
it.
To me, like, I was like, holy crap. Damon's looking at me like, I've never seen you lift like that. Like, he's just staring at me like, what's going on? And I'm not going to say it was the programming. I'm not going to say anything else. But what I am going to say, it was the dedication, because I think we talked about this over a year ago, that I was going to set out to move my feet. And, there might have been some lulls in there where I just said, screw it, I'm not moving my feet. And then, hey, guess what? I got injured. And then I got to get back to it. And it's to the point now where I have breached the level of comfortability where I'm moving my feet, and I'm so excited, dude. I'm so excited to see like where this is going to take my lifting and how much, if it's going to make it better. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what was cool with that is I haven't seen a lot of videos yet because it's only been a couple of weeks, but you stopped moving your feet because that was the lesser evil to your problem before.
Correct.
And then what that did is it started helping fix your technique in so many ways that you were able to basically, now that you're adding it back in, you don't have that old bad habits.
I know.
So it's like now,
that's a great way. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're going to get it. Stuff's going to change because now the bad habit was not moving your feet. And now you're going to start gaining some more, like you're just going to level up quite a bit more, I think now.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
dude.
I'm sure you're going to revert back when it gets heavy and you're tired and all that kind of stuff. Then we always revert back. But what I always tell people is when it comes to fight or flight, we're going to do whatever we have to do to make the lift. You're getting better when fight or flight doesn't start happening till you're closer and closer to your one rep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got to say, and I'm probably pulling this out too early in the episode, but this is so much. This little story is so much why I love this sport. I'm 45 freaking years old. I have a family. I got a career, and I'm out here learning new shit in weightlifting, and it's making me stronger. And I'm so humbled by it, dude. And it's just, everybody probably has their thing. Maybe you're a tennis player, or maybe, you water ski. I don't know. Maybe whatever. I don't know if there's a ceiling on learning stuff, but I never thought at 45 years old, I would be learning a new technique to, as you said, level up. Like and that's why this sport's so great. I don't know.
No, I love it. One of the things I enjoy doing is we have a couple of people at our gym who either have their level 1 or they're newer coaches. I'm not saying that that they're not good coaches. They've recently become gotten their level 1s because they want to expand their knowledge of the sport and get better at it. And the best way to get better is to learn how to teach it so that you can break it down and explain it better.
Yep.
I will go up to some of these very new coaches that I know and I'm not trying to be cocky, but I know that I know 10 times what they know.
Right.
And I just say, can you watch me? Let me know what you think. And I'm
Love
like,
it.
because I don't know what you're seeing. And I don't know
Yeah.
what your perspective is. And if there's something that you think I should try. Because I'm not someone who's so Mr. Know-it-all that, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to them. I know so much more than them. It's like, what if I might know so much more than them, but I might not know what they know.
Yeah.
And I might not be able to feel what they can see. And so I've been doing a lot of that recently. And it's kind of cool because there's been little snippets where it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then I'll try to do something else. And I'm just trying to add and add and add.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And that's a really good story in the sense of, or a good lesson for people to hear. Like, there's, I think, in most of the sports I've played, I think that this sport has the idea of we idolize lifters, right?
mhm.
And we idolize these big lifters. Some of them turn into coaches, and then we're like, "Oh, I got to be on that coach's team." They were a badass back in the day. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to be the same way to a certain point. I want to be on the famous coach's team. Oh, this guy's an Instagram like legend. I want to be on his team and see what he can do. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's just having perspective, because my training partner, Damon, he's been watching me lift for a long time. He's been a lifter for a little bit. He's competed a couple times. But if you ask him, he's probably not going to tell you he's a weightlifter, but he can tell you he likes to work out and lift and all that. I'm just going to guess, Damon, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But he can look at me and he can break my stuff down. And it's a different eye and it's a different perspective. And I think what your story just lended me a little bit was that the idea that it's like you don't have to be a professional to see something a little bit different. You just have to have some knowledge of what you're doing. Now, these rookie coaches aren't going to like make you go out there and snatch 160. Probably not, I would imagine. But they may give you a cue that helps you at somewhere down the road, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'll say this to people who are listening, who are either just getting into coaching or they're a newer coach.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes less is more. Don't bombard them with telling them every single thing you see. Just focus on one thing. And don't focus on one thing on Monday and one other thing on Wednesday, another thing on Friday. Focus on one thing until it's no longer a problem. It might be 2 or 3 weeks. I've got like 3 lifters at the gym right now. And it's funny because of your feet thing. Every time I see them, I'm like, we're going to move our feet today. And they're like, we'll find out and we'll see. And that's the only thing I care about with their lifting.
Yeah.
And it's, they have a lot more of an issue with it. Like they pull with their feet close. They don't even barely come up on their toes and they land with their feet close. And it's like, you're tipping over sideways. You're super unbalanced. Like let's, but it's been, for one girl in particular I'm thinking of, it's been months. And I'm not the only one who's saying it, but I'm the one who that's all I'm ever going to say. So when she sees me, she knows, oh, he's going to bring it up again. I need to focus on this.
Yeah.
So
I learned early, I think I heard this from Mike Bergender. It was like, 1% at a time. As a coach, you change 1% of something. And then when they fix that and it's ready to go, then you move on to the next. And that's really good advice, because being somebody who's been coached by a person that will give you like a just complete download to a person that doesn't know what they're doing, or not doesn't know what they're doing, but doesn't have the right answers as a coach. To like, I've had all kinds of different coaches. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I was trying to be clever about that. But I tell me one thing. As an athlete, tell me one thing. Let me work on that. Let me fix that. Don't try to fix 5 different things, because just what Cornell said, it overloads, and then you fix nothing. And then you're like, grab the bar. You're like, okay, I got to move my feet. I got to lift my hips. I got to keep my chest up. And then guess what? You're not going to make that lift.
Yeah. Another thing for new coaches, don't get offended because they always do. I mean, I did in the beginning at one point where you're working on someone for one thing and you're coming 25 different ways to try to fix that one thing. And then some random person steps in or they go to another gym and they say something differently and it clicks. It's not the one thing they said that fixed them. It's all the work that you've been doing, getting them to think about stuff and trying different things. It's just, it happened to get fixed when the other person said it. So oftentimes people will say like, oh, they fixed me. It's like, they really didn't. They were just the last straw on the camel's back that did it.
Take credit for it, right?
Yeah. Like if you're doing 99% of the work to get them to fix something and someone else just so happens to word something differently, or they were in a different mood when they heard it and then all of a sudden it clicked for them, who cares who said it? It got fixed.
It got fixed. It worked. Now take that, lock that in, and then go fix the next thing, because we're always going to have things. Our bodies are not primed to be like, once we fix it, it doesn't just stay there. Man, I can only speak from the older you get, the harder it gets, but you got to have that foundation and you got to have the understanding of not necessarily the technique, but the commitment to that freaking process and the understanding that, like, you got to send your life around something. We've talked about balance before, right? Talked about balance. We talked about, I talk about balance a lot in flavor. I talk about balance in life sometimes. I don't know if there's a such thing as balance in weightlifting. What do you think about that?
I think the best way to do it is to go all in.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's going to be a balance on how far you can push and when you have to pull back, and knowing when to push and when to pull back. And it's not realistically, it's not going to be dependent on your program. It's going to be based on your age, your training age, previous injuries, upcoming injuries.
Upcoming injuries, right?
Like, I'm not saying I'm not learning anything anymore, but I am learning how to mitigate injury much more now.
Yeah.
Because I don't get injured anymore. I get overused. And I'm trying to learn how to push when I can push and how to pull back when I can pull back. And if I'm feeling really good, like, it doesn't mean I should go heavier. And that's not an easy thing for me. Like, I was feeling really good on Saturday. I posted the video montage of everything, and there is zero rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I'm hitting powers. I'm hitting fulls. I have straps on. I don't have straps on. Like, the weight's going up. It's going down. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And I'm just out there going like, this is the next lift. Like, going from 105 to 120, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Then going to 110 and then going to 95 and then going to 15. Like, it was a pinball machine of what's happening next. And there was a little bit of a reason to it. I was lifting with somebody else and they weren't having a great day, unfortunately. So that's why my weights were all over the place. But I think that there's something to be said about, like, I end up snatching 125. It was the heaviest lift I did. And I threw the straps off for it.
Yeah.
I probably could have snatched 35, maybe 40. I don't know if I could have made 40, but instead of just when I was feeling good when I hit the first 120 and going up, I might have had 3 or 4 more lifts in me. I got like 9 more lifts at random weights. And I was like, this is what my body needs right now. This is what's going to make me better, not just going up and hitting something heavy for the day.
Yeah. And I really, it's a good way of putting that, because there was like today or last night, Damon was like, "Hey, you want to get a Sunday session in?" I don't really lift on Sundays. And this is what's going on in my head. Oh, you got a lot to do. Oh, you got like A, B, and C to get done. And I literally had the text like, "Sorry, buddy, I'm going to take a rain check." And then I reread that and I'm like, delete. Sure, dude. I'll meet you there at 8 a.m. And glad I did it. The entire drive there, my back was hurting. My neck was stiff. I'm just like, God damn it. I'm going to hurt myself today. But I just went out there and I said, you know what? Let's just lift light. I worked up to a very light, snatch plus hang, and then a single at the clean and jerk, and we did some recovery, and it was like a great session. And I feel good, and I bet you my deleting tomorrow will be better because of it.
Yeah.
And so, and what I guess what you're saying is like something I deal with a lot, which is I get locked into I got a schedule. I gotta do that. I got to do it. No, you don't. Just get out there and do something. Move around. Lift the bar over your head. Do something. It doesn't matter if like you were saying, you were lifting with somebody who was having an off day. Well, you adapted. The ability to be adaptable is it shouldn't be such a talked about thing these days. I talk about it in my career sense of having kids that could just can adapt to situations. When I say kids, I mean 20-some-year-old people making pizzas at a restaurant. But I'm like, just adapt. Hey, they don't want pepperoni on it. Don't put pepperoni on it. But that's how it's supposed to be made. Okay. Anyways, the ability to have adaptability, I don't know if that works, but you guys all know what I'm saying. Have adaptability, be able to get out there and do whatever, just have a good time. And I think that if you just continue to stack those kind of sessions up, you're going to see increases, and you're going to see better things happen on the platform in your lifting.
Yeah, I think another part that's really good with doing these things, like lifting on days that you're not normally going to lift, or if you had to take a day off and you don't stress about it. I've had some not major, like I needed to take weeks off for surgery or anything like that, but I've had some injuries where I thought I wasn't going to be able to compete 7 to 10 days out.
Yeah.
And normally you'd hit your last real heavy day roughly 7 days out. And then you'd hit your openers on, let's say, Monday, and you'd hit your last attempts on Wednesday, and then you'd take Thursday and Friday off and compete Saturday. Yeah. Well, when it's a week, if it's the Wednesday, a week and a half before you compete, and you can't realistically even go into a full squat, and you're not even willing to, like, I wasn't willing to stand up anything. I don't think I snatched more than like 65 or 70 kilos. Yeah. Leading up to one of the biggest meets of my life. And then you go out to compete. Like the good part is I knew this, and my coach at the time reiterated it, that you're not going to get any stronger right now. The best thing that can happen is for you to do everything you can to recover. You're not going to get better in the next week and a half. Keep the mobility, keep mentally. I lifted hundreds of snatches while I wasn't snatching. Right. But like all of the, I'm going to jump in and do this session that it's not on a scheduled day, and I'm going to like that's the kind of stuff that helps you get mentally strong with lifting. And I think that being a mentally strong lifter is going to take you so much further than being a physically strong lifter.
Correct. 100%. And that's really the mic drop here is you want to lift mentally strong, learn how to lift in all situations, just exactly what you just said. Be mentally strong. Yeah. It just doesn't work otherwise. You're going to last like a month or a couple months, and you'll be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, and if you can be mentally strong, that's going to be what you're talking about earlier with the long-term gratification. I've had a handful of people ask me like, "Oh, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to get good?" I'm like, "Just keep doing it." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean? How do I get good faster?" I'm like, "Start earlier." Like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if you started 5 years ago, you'd be 5 years better than you are right now. So if
Yeah, no
you
kidding,
do
right?
this for 5 years, you're going to be 5 years good. You do this for
Yeah,
10 years, you're going to have 10 years of experience.
Go find a calendar 5 years from now, mark it, and be like, I'm going to be good by this date. Because if you just keep at it, you will be.
I mean, you really want to jack with someone's mental side, open up their phone, go 5 years in advance and just put in, am I still weightlifting? And put it as a reminder for it to pop up. Like,
please, somebody out there do this. That's awesome. Oh boy. It just shows up. Am I still weightlifting? The gut feeling if you're not weightlifting at that moment, like,
yeah. Like,
yeah.
I remember when all of a sudden you remember vividly that conversation.
Oh boy. Well, this has been a good show. Cornell, like all good stuff. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not a weightlifter, well, take this and apply it to something that you are passionate about, that you do every day, that you to your relationship, to, I don't know. Everybody does different things, but these are all pretty simple processes and things we're talking about that can relate to anything.
Wow.
Anything you do. And as humans, we should do more than just go to work, come home, and sit on the couch. So
we should pick up heavy things and put them back down.
Correct. Exactly. And on that note, buddy, thank you for being on your show. And everybody, thank you for listening. It's been another fun episode. Oh, and if you haven't listened to RX Radio, go listen to that episode 581. I think it was their newest one. Those are pretty funny. I've been getting into their stuff because of you, Cornell. So thank you for sharing. I was in a bit of a lull there. So, but anyways, everybody have a great night, and we will talk to you all later. Adios.
Bye.
Oh, God. Not ending. There we go. It's not ending.